Hey everybody, welcome to the Hot Take with Chrissy. We're going to do a part 3 on FPC's football coach Daniel Fish, and we're going to be talking about an article that came out yesterday in Flagler Live pertaining to the hazing event that we were talking about a few days ago, as well as some administration talk in this letter that leads us to believe that maybe Coach Fish had some idea, Alan, of why he might have gotten let go, relieved of duties as a coach. But there's things in here that I read, and we're going to go over it. Why is he still allowed to teach?
Well, that's a good. I read this article. I read the article, and some of the things that we've held back on discussing because things had to come out first, we didn't say. But there's a lot of stuff that, I didn't know. You knew it all. You weren't even telling me. Excuse me. So I didn't know. But changing grades, not properly supervising the locker room, throwing another guy under the bus, so to speak, not actually throwing somebody under a bus. But why would they retain him as a teacher? I don't get it.
Well, there's still an investigation currently going on. It hasn't been concluded yet from what we've gathered. This was separate investigations that were going on that were concluded that he got disciplinary actions for.
So multiple investigations.
Yeah. And where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
I'm going to talk about, I'm going to break up this article because I think we're going to talk about the hazing part just because we did release this on the podcast the other day. Because of some information that we got, and also, just from things that I knew that could maybe give a little insight to what happened that day from the field perspective. In this article, it says this is from Flagler Live's article yesterday that was published. It was not Fish's first disciplinary action. He'd been on the job 5 months when in October 2023, Bossert issued him a letter of caution for failing to properly supervise student athletes. The disciplinary letter was the result of an incident in a locker room involving student athletes. A student had entered an unsupervised locker room, so it's been confirmed it was unsupervised.
Right.
Grabbed a stick and started chasing another student with it when they started crude roughhousing, only to devolve into a more violent confrontation involving one student, putting another one in a chokehold and wrestling him to the ground. As one of the students described in the internal investigation, all the boys were wrestling around on the floor and were laughing, one of several students quoted in the investigation in the report. No, he never put it in him. I guess he's talking about the broomstick. The student reported on the stick in an illusion of, what is that? Something act. Oh, homophobic act. I saw him drop it. It looked like he was going to put it in, but had a change of thought and did not. The student added, everybody was messing around. They always do this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's in quotes.
So do they always do this even when it's supervised or just when it's unsupervised?
Exactly.
But another question that comes up, so this, apparently they were joking about, or maybe the kid himself didn't take it as joking, but they were joking about putting this broomstick in him. So does that mean that they had pulled the kid's pants off?
I have no idea.
Because
I know,
how would they
exactly.
do? There's so many questions still unanswered in that. And it's really disgusting.
It is. And there was a story down south with another high school that this happened to. I believe it was a football team a few years ago. That coach got fired and all those kids were expelled from the school. So when they were involved with something like this, but the reason we were getting inundated with so much information because it is alleged to believe that they were only suspended for a couple of the football games because a couple of those kids that were involved played another sport and were state contenders in that sport. And there's a correlation between apparently, allegedly, somebody in administration and one of those coaches having ties. So that was one of the big things. Like, we just pacified this so he could go do that other sport, which is all alleged. But if you did something that was so violent and you guys were a part of it, why was it only a couple football games and not another further action from that?
And why did the coach just receive a, slap on the wrist, basically?
Well, actually, we'll get to that because it said, I believe in there, if anything else ever happened, there would be a termination, and he did get wrote up after that too. So yeah, we're getting into that in the article.
Ah, okay.
It says there were intimidations of fight later on. Then one of the students involved took a swing at Coach Fish and other members of the coaching staff, calling them crackers and making death threats. Okay.
And none of these kids were expelled.
All of these kids witnessed this too, like my son and everybody else in the field. That was like, what the hell is going on? So this was done in front of the whole team on the field. The mother of the one student arrived. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, making death threats. The mother of the one student arrived and went on the field upset at the coaching staff and called Fish a cracker and other derogatory and sexual, suggestive, and bigot terms, according to witnesses' reports, and threatening coaches with jail. So now you got a mom that bum rushed the fields going after the coach, and all of the kids are witnessing this. The investigation determined that while Coach Ward Sylvia was supposed to have been supervising the locker room, if it was left unlocked, that day Fish had directed him to work with other members on the team on the field. Fish did not assign backup. Okay, so the fact that they put somebody's name in here, which
the guy had
I know
nothing
the
to
coach,
do
he
with
had nothing to do with it. That's Fish's fault. He was supposed to reassign somebody to back him up, and he didn't. He dropped the ball, which we could be part of that was his first season, maybe the inexperience as well. But also it goes back to they're always horsing around like this in the locker room. This is not the first time stuff like this has happened, apparently, in this alleged article.
According to, it's not an alleged article, it's an article. But
wow.
The stuff is alleged in the article. But
you know how teenagers like to make up and elaborate a little bit, but it's in there.
Yeah, it's there, and if it's not the first time, I wonder if there's any kind of reports of
that you're not
times
hearing about. And the only reason
hearing.
that we're getting this report now is because somebody asked because of the podcast. We were shed the light by some inside stuff. Bossardet disciplined Fish and referred the matter to the state office of professional practices service, which is fortunately for Fish determined that further action by the state was not warranted. So, yeah. How can it be so violent in action and all of this stuff? The police are involved in all this, and they just get a couple games and moving on.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel good.
No, it's a little bit striking, alarming.
But that's just one incident of several
incidents. That we're going to get into. The other crazy part is you cried wolf and victim in the first article. You had no idea why you got let go. I can give you a couple of investigation reports that you signed, according to this article, that's saying you knew some stuff had transpired under your watch, which is insane.
Yeah,
so do you think
obviously he wasn't an angel?
No, and people are saying that he cried victim. There's several comments under this post on Facebook. We're going to get into this now. Daniel Fish was fired last week as head football coach of Flagler Palm Coast High School. This is from the Flagler Live article. He led for the last 2 years. The school district said he would remain as a member of the FPC faculty. The district would not explain why he lost his football job. He led them to a 9-2 record and recently ended the season and appeared to have support of the team. I would never given an explanation as to why, we're talking about the article previous to this, I'm not the head football coach anymore, and I was reassigned as a teacher. Fish said in the Observer earlier this week. So we're going to go down to here where Fish's statements are at odds, obviously, with records obtained by Flagler Live. Following an internal investigation that ended in December, Fish was a subject of a letter of reprimand for a series of grave failures in his teaching and administrative duties, which have nothing to do with football. It was his second disciplinary action write-up for Coach Fish in 14 months. He had been the subject of a letter of caution in October of 23, which was a hazing event, following a violent incident that started among student athletes in the football team's unsupervised locker room that fall under Coach Fish. Leading up to the latest reprimand, Flagler Palm Coast principal Bobby Bossardet had reported to the district professional standards Mike Rinaldi in earlier December that Fish was failing to instruct his students accordingly to standards, was failing to keep accurate records for students, was inflating grades, and was not teaching any of the standards for the course that was graduation requirements. Coach Fish, just so you know, he teaches weightlifting at the school.
Okay.
The failures endured after Fish had received professional learning opportunities, administrative counseling, and training to improve his record keeping and course planning.
It occurred after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fish is a 30-year-old resident. He's been head football coach of Father Lopez and Daytona Beach before taking the FPC job. The Catholic school director said that he was an amazing man and had loads of potential when FPC Bossardette contacted them for a reference. So I got a question with you. With the reference now, if you're giving a reference and he's looking for a coaching position or teaching position somewhere, isn't this going to follow him? Do you have to explain the disciplinary actions, especially when there's a violent incident done on his watch?
Well, I know from a employer-employee standpoint, not with the school system, but just in regular business, if a former employee goes for a interview with another company and then uses your company as a reference, and then they call, for liability reasons, you basically say, as little as you can, and you say, they'll ask, would you hire him? Was he good? And you could say, well, he worked to his standards or he didn't work to his standards, but you don't go into a lot of detail because.
Well, it's out there now in articles.
Well, now it's out there,
Yeah.
but that is then also up to the next person to ensure that they do their due diligence on that person. So yes, this is going to follow Coach Fish now forever. And it's a shame that he didn't pick up when they were giving him special, I don't know if it was tutoring or instruction or whatever.
Well, that was after the fact, after the investigation was concluded.
Right, but they gave it to him,
Yeah.
and he still failed it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's in the wrong occupation.
Maybe it comes with the inexperience, though, too. I don't know.
Well, a lot of things can come with
'Cause he's
inexperience.
young.
A lot of things come with inexperience. But a lot of training is supposed to take care of that. And they gave him, apparently, according to the article, they gave him training that he didn't act on.
In the article, it explains some training that he didn't get. He did get. Some took months to get. He kept canceling for additional training that he was required to take. But it's all in that article if everyone wants to read it. But it says Fish was issued the letter of reprimand on December 17th of last year. The letter sustained the charges against him. Should you exhibit neglect teaching practices in the future, it may result in further disciplinary action up to or including dismissal of your employment at Flagler County Schools, Bossardette wrote Fish, who signed the letter. Fish disputed the reprimand in writing, "Why am I getting reprimanded now when no one has said anything to me?" He wrote among a list of concerns that included his complaints that he had received onboarding, I guess is a term used for orientation or training, had heard no conversation about this at department meetings, had not received assistance with the grade book. He's claiming he had asked what he could do after his evaluation, which resulted in a midlining grade, only to be told that one doesn't matter. It's a formal observation anyways that matters, and had been without Wi-Fi for 3 months. An internal investigation found that Fish has been a no-show for onboarding in April of 2023, that he'd received assistance with the grade book the same month, and that he'd been invited to new teacher training programs to provide by the Northeast Florida Education, but did not sign up or show up. The district pays $3.3 million in a range of services that could help him to help his teaching, I guess, or give him the tools that he needs to do.
So what they're saying is that all the training needed to overcome his we'll call him his freshman teaching position, he didn't do.
Well, and it says here the investigation also listed 3 dates in February, March, and April of 2024 when he either did not show up or did not respond to new teacher meetings. The investigation documented notes and dates of several emails sent informing faculty of available help and tutors Fish had said he'd not been helped with. But obviously he had the tools from what this email is providing to be able to do that. On the other hand, documents showed that he had attended the completing training grade book of Schoolology, which is a district-based learning management system.
Schoolology.
I know it's an access to teachers. And yeah, it's so a document. One documented point to appear to be grade in inflation. The documents listed that were 24 teachers and courses who grade broken down into quarters. Oh, so there was a class that was helping him show him how to do the schedule. So the there's so much to unravel with just that alone. And my whole thing from the takeaway of that article, just like several others, why is he allowed to teach?
It's they
take him out of weightlifting and put him in another PE class now.
It seems.
And
it seems outrageous to me.
It doesn't seem like he's done all of his training either yet.
Well, he hasn't. According to this article, he hasn't done his training. According to this article, he knew the issues that he says he didn't know. And according to this article, he's done a lot of things. I don't understand. I don't understand.
It's a lot.
I don't understand. It's crazy.
It is actually crazy. And I've been trying to keep my personal experience out of this, but now that this is starting to come out and made public, I wanted to talk about why my son, because it is pertaining to the school part of it, and I'm gonna talk about it and let everyone know our experience. So what happened is last year in February, where it started all this, my son, we were walking out of one of his meets late at night, and we witnessed something at school in the parking lot.
So he was in wrestling or weightlifting?
Weightlifting. My son's in weightlifting. And so it was January 29th. We went to the school. Well, I went to school on the 30th just to let them know what we saw and transpired. They didn't agree, or we had words about what actually happened. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, my son, who is an honor student, he's gotten great grades. I have several notes from teachers and coaches at the school that just absolutely love working with. We've never had a problem ever. He comes to me and he's like, "Mom, my grade went from 100 to a 68 in weightlifting." Meanwhile, just to throw some background, my son, who's on the weightlifting team, won several medals for the school and during the summer for AAU, is a pretty decent weightlifter. And I didn't understand why. So he said he asked and he wasn't given an answer. 2 days later, he comes to me. He's like, "Mom, there's this thing called an integrity board that the coach hangs up. And if you do something wrong or whatever, he writes your name on it." Son's never been on this board. All of a sudden now his name's on there 5 times and he's all upset because when he asked, he's not getting a reason. So he comes out.
Who did he ask?
Coach Fish.
Okay.
So he's like, "Mom, can you help me figure out what's going on? Like, I don't know what's going on." So I said, "Okay." So my bad, just being a parent defending your kid, I called the school. I told him what was going on. He sent an email to Coach Fish. All I got back from Coach Fish was an email, and I have several of these emails that went back and forth for months, to say that he wasn't doing what he's supposed to be doing in class. He got 100 for the last 3 quarters. He's been doing the same thing. And thank God the day that he did this and put his name on the board, my son had been on the track with the other students doing what they were supposed to be doing, walking it. And he had taken a picture. Some of the other kids took pictures. So we actually had proof he was doing what he was told that day when his name appeared on the board 5 times for no reason. And when your name goes on this board, you have to have a form of punishment on the field, whether it's pushing boards or doing something of that sort.
Right.
So we sent off the emails, we talked to administration, and then things just went downhill from there. 3 days later, we'll look into it. We'll get into it. Some didn't even respond. 3 days later, my son gets thrown out of the class. No explanation, just you can't come to this class anymore. They reassigned him, ironically, to the PE class now that Coach Fish is now teaching. And he was unhappy because it was all the football players' girlfriends. It wasn't the football players. And here he is, a weightlifter, and he's like, why am I here? Reported it to the school. They moved him into a powerlifting class. And several kids had come to me when they found out what Matthew was going through and said our grades were being messed with. Our name was on the integrity board for several reasons, and we didn't know what was going on either. So I put them in with our, paperwork to show what was going on. Needless to say, we went back and forth for months. I got an attorney because it wasn't right and just looked like complete retaliation at that point because we had my son never did anything. And I'm like, if you have a conversation with an adult, keep it with adults. You don't have to go and make the kids get upset or do something that could harm the
Right.
children,
Right.
or make them look bad, or my son got really upset with everything, and so the lawyer ended up filing, because the school board hadn't been doing anything or getting back to us, filed a formal complaint with Tallahassee, the state of Florida. So, and for everybody who's called, you got to file formal complaints with Tallahassee. You can call the FHSAA if you feel there's things. I mean, we've been getting inundated, with
Yes, we
things that
have.
are going on. So that was his experience, why I took him out. And it, like I said, it wasn't warranted, we feel. And obviously, looking at some of this stuff, messing with grades, not keeping up a classroom. There were several things that transpired in classroom that were never reported, kind of not as violent as the other thing, but there were other things that we know now were reported, but what was actually done and what was actually warranted for that investigation to be closed, no one knows.
So let me ask you, when you lawyered up, and your lawyer went before, who did the lawyer
talk to? The school board, members of the school board went to administration. I mean, we're talking about everybody. There were emails to everybody.
So did an investigation start after that?
An internal investigation start, but then they started not getting back to my lawyer. Nothing was getting done. Months were going by. It was just dragging on. And so we submitted a formal complaint to the state of Florida, because that goes over their head, and then that opens up the door for them to look into stuff further.
So they opened up an investigation?
Yeah.
The state did?
Yeah, from what I know, yes. What I was told.
And that's sort of alluded to in this article with
everything we complained
grade,
about was all in this article.
Right.
So there's, and like I said, though, we've been inundated with stuff. There's just so much more, that is involved with this. There's so many moving parts.
Yeah, and
it doesn't seem like
it seems unreal to me.
No, I know. And yesterday when I was on Facebook, I came across, and I'm going to read it, this parent that we had talked to, and she went off on administration. It seems like, it says, I don't usually post, this was on Facebook, and it's public, it's on there. I do not post it allegedly. I do not post nonsense anymore, but man, is this a bigger deal for me. It's about time that this football BS started for us just before the spring game in May of 2023. And before you come at me, I'm speaking firsthand, my personal experience as a parent. I still have emails saved with FPC's administration to prove the BS experience with Fish and some of his staff. I personally had to have an in-school order placed just for my son, I'm not going to mention his name, to finish out the junior year thanks to the lack of leadership from the coaches. And that was the first year that Fish was there. Not to mention some of the other facts that I've learned from actual college recruiters after we left FPC. I always said the truth comes out eventually, and everyone experiences things and people differently. But for our family, this was a partial closure to some real negative things that we experienced at FPC, both with with the school and the main coach. And then she goes on to say, wait a minute. I always say the truth comes out eventually, and everyone experiences things differently for each family. Ask me about some cleats and money that were promised to my kids. If he came and if he got that, I bet you'll find a text about that too. And by the way, for those who question it, we have a house in Volusia at the time, and we were legally eligible for mainland, and that ring was earned and hard fought. They ended up winning state, the kid that left. And as for him, he actually got a scholarship, and that was the best decision we ever made for our kid. And this goes back to what I was talking about, though. Parents are making their own decisions, what's best for their children, and you still have that group of negativity that comes after people or wants to smear stuff. And we don't condone any sort of hate or anything like that. But parents should be able to make their own decision without having parents come after them and attack them.
Yeah.
And where do people get off? I'm still trying to where do people get off attacking people that don't have the same experience that you did?
Well, a lot of it, is keyboard warriors for one thing, where they
they like to get on social media.
They get on social media and make noise. But maybe.
And by the way, this is actual facts. This is stuff we reported to the state of Florida. So.
Oh yeah,
I'm not keyboard warrior here.
No,
I'm
this is
speaking
real stuff.
About something that pertains to this article
and
that my child went through.
It just, parents aside, the school board, the principal, all these people that have been involved have dropped the ball, so to speak. And
A lot of people are saying it's because there's this alleged family dynamic of a certain family that's in the administration, in sports, and on the school board that are ties that from everything that people are gathering. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, if it's true, I have no idea. Like I said in the past, I don't know if Coach Fish walked into the studio here right now, I wouldn't know who he is. So I have no...
Even from his picture being on Facebook for the last 3-4 days?
I haven't paid any attention. But I can tell you that so my opinion's unbiased. I don't know the guy. Never had any interaction with him. All I know is the stories I've heard, and now this article, which is presenting facts, and the facts that you've presented. I think that the principal and the school board need to take another look.
Yeah.
And
it's obvious he hasn't shown up or taken some of the stuff he needs, but then
he needs to do.
But again, if you're taking out of one area to teach and move to another one, and you had an investigation closed, and obviously things were wrong with student grades and keeping and all the other things that are in this article, why are you letting him teach another class?
Yeah. And I don't want to see anybody get fired. I don't want to see anybody's life destroyed, but apparently there's some kids that lives were almost destroyed, and I think they're more important.
Well, and that's the thing. The true victims here are not Coach Fish, who didn't know what was going on, because now we can call BS basically on that. He knew very well aware
what was going on,
and he signed stuff to know he knew what was going on. The real victims are the kids in the locker room that got held down, the kids that got their grades messed with that no one talked about. Those are the real victims in this, not Coach Fish.
No. I agree 100% with that. The kids are always who should come first anyway.
And I think the school owes them an apology.
And
the people that failed them, they owe them an apology.
Well, that's what I'm seeing now. And
especially like the kid that got held down in that locker room.
That kid, there should have been a lawsuit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but I don't know. I don't want to see somebody's life destroyed. I don't want to see somebody get fired. Some of the kids' lives have already been screwed up. Their minds have been screwed up in their impressionable times. But this coach, I don't know. It doesn't pass the sniff test.
Fire. Yeah, exactly.
It's bad news.
Oh, yeah. And just the things on social media that are coming out right now. And I just want to say this to everybody before we close out. I've been inundated with, and so is Alan, with emails and calls and stuff for people that are having issues. Mm-hmm. You go to, if you're not getting answers at this local level, go to Tallahassee, file your complaint. It'll get the ball rolling faster than you not getting your calls back, you not waiting. I mean, you should see the email thread between me, my attorney, and the school that went on since February of last year about the incident that happened in February. So, I mean, that's just one of the many examples of things I've seen. And, I would just say I would do it that way if you're not getting the answers you need.
And sadly, you were actually in a position because of all this that you had to pull your kid out of school and did you homeschool him?
He's in homeschool now, but why am I going to go put my kid in a school that allowed this?
No, I agree 100%.
And then they can't even get back to you after the findings are you had to get an attorney. I spent thousands of dollars on this because I knew my son wasn't lying. I knew his grades were screwed around. Oh, and by the way, when Coach Fish got questioned about his grades a week later, it automatically went back up to a 93. So it went from 100 to a 68 back to 93 in a week and no explanation. And my son was already out of class. He already threw him out of class. Never again wrote up. Yeah. So it's again, we need answers. You need to let us know what happened. And our children who are going through this, they deserve the answers. They're the true victims.
Well, I hope the superintendent, I hope the school board, I hope the principal, I hope other coaches, I hope everybody stands back and takes a stronger look at the way things came down and put policy in place or enforce policies to the full extent against people that are violating the policies. I mean, this hurt kids, this hurt parents, this costs money.
You know how many other teachers are probably at that school that probably might not be maybe up to date? That's some of the emails we've gotten up to date. Some of them says they haven't even had the one claim of the alleged email saying that they are not even doing the teacher yearly evaluations.
Yeah.
And that people that are doing transfers and different things there are involved with certain sports on the team. So, we do need to take a closer look.
Yep.
As a whole.
Really needs to be done.
Well, have a great day, everybody. Make sure you tune in Monday. We're going to go live at a local area restaurant. Me, Alan, and Jordan, a new one that we're pretty excited about. They're going to open their doors to us before they open, and super excited about that. And we have some really great podcasts coming on next week. So make sure you stay tuned to Flagler Voice. Have a great day.